This is a PODFIC recording of Thoughts of You Leave Me Breathless by Solitary Bird, narrated by Solitary Bird. This fic is rated T for Awake and Funeral, Angst, Hurt No Comfort, and a character mistakenly believing that another one is trying to kill themselves, but that doesn't happen. Thorin died. Words that don't feel real, but Bilbo is standing next to the tomb where Thorin Oakenshield lies. Funeral rites for dwarves are very different from what hobbits do. That Thorin lays in stone and not in soil makes Bilbo itch all over. It feels wrong. It feels wrong enough that he's standing here long after everyone else has seemingly left. At least one member of the company is likely watching him. They haven't left him alone since Thorin breathed his last breath. Dane's people were very against Bilbo being here for the funerary rites. They weren't for non-dwarven eyes or ears, but Philly and Killy had pulled out the mithril coat Thorin had gifted Bilbo. Even the most vehement of his detractors was mysteriously pulling him to the front of the procession and handing him marble chips. Marble chips that someone chose him to place in Thorin's right palm before they closed the lid of the stone box he's now laying in. There had been, just for a second, a blinding, overwhelming urge to climb in there with him, but the lid had closed just as the feeling had peaked. Even now, hours after it had ebbed away, Bilbo was left with so many questions that there would probably never be an answer to, not without a certain dour Dwaro to answer them for him. What he can slowly begin to pass on his own is terrifying. How do you live knowing that you have only recognised your own feelings when there's no longer any purpose in saying them, when they can only bring pain? Bilbo hasn't cried yet. His mouth is so dry that it makes him wonder if there's even enough moisture in his body for tears to form. He hopes that whoever is watching is definitely a member of the company because he's about to attempt to do something stupid. The feeling of the wrongness has only grown the longer that he's been standing in this one frozen position. What he's compelled to do is probably, definitely, disrespectful. Bilbo doesn't think that if confronted he'll be able to explain his action in a way that the Dwaro can understand. Soil isn't as important to them. Soil doesn't call to them the way that it does for hobbits. Stone takes that place in their society. Hence why the mausoleum of Erebor is filled with various displays of stone statues and intricately carved tombs. Bilbo places his hands on the stone separating them. There is no way one hobbit could lift it, so sliding it just enough to place the small bag of soil and the seeds Bilbo has gathered from Ravenhill in Thorin's empty hand is his only option. The sheer strength of will is almost dwarvish in its power as it surges through Bilbo. He refuses to send Thorin off like this, placing the bag and replacing the later trials that will come after the Herculean task of first getting it open. Blisters form on his hands from the way his hands slip as he tries to find a good grip. It's polished almost to a mirror sheen, but Bilbo does find purchase, and with a push that makes his back click in ways that make him profoundly nervous, the stone moves. It groans with him. There's definitely someone watching, only they are not merely watching anymore. He can hear them running towards him, metal boots clinking almost deafeningly so in the silence of the mausoleum. Bilbo is going to get caught. He's resigned to that. His fingers shake as the hobbit sets his jaw in determination, and he pushes again. Stone grinds on stone again, a cacophony of noise that reverberates through this hall of vaulted stone. The feet are coming closer again. They pick up speed, but they are neither close enough nor fast enough to stop him. There's a gap opening. Bilbo is sweating profusely. He's vacillating between feeling like he's about to throw or pass out. Maybe it will be both, but they will have to wait till Bilbo achieves his goal. He has enough strength to push one last time, and for some reason the stone slides way further than Bilbo expected. Thorin is still lying there, still cold, and his flesh still disturbingly bluer than it should rightly be. If not for the unnatural colour of that skin and the grievous wound Bilbo knows lies beneath the rich clothing his king is dressed in, he could almost trick himself into believing him to be merely sleeping. Bilbo can't breathe. It hits him fully just what feelings have been slowly accumulating in his heart, overflowing like a dam, failing to hold back melting snow. They suck all the air out of him. Bilbo's knees feel weak, and when he reaches to push the stone one last time, its sudden movement causes him to overbalance. Arms wrap round him from behind, hauling him backwards, just as the hobbit is about to tip entirely into the tomb. What the fuck are you doing, Bilbo? Nori screams into Bilbo's ears. Bilbo flinches. So it was Nori that had been watching him, and now he was going to get banished from the mountain again. This time permanently. It was going to be very sad. Bilbo started crying. Dori, get Ori. We shouldn't have let him stay in here this long. Nori shouts. It's not as loud as his earlier scream. There's another pair of feet running away. He hadn't been watching alone. That had to mean that they were worried he'd do something stupid. If it's Ori coming, then maybe they'll drug him, and he'll wake up in a cell. Bilbo starts fighting. He has to put the soil in Thorin's hand. Nori's trying to pull him away from the tomb, and though the dwarf is significantly stronger than him, Bilbo writhes like an eel. 15 seconds is all it takes to break free and rush back to Thorin's side. Bilbo, please don't do this. Please value your life more than this. Nori is rushing back over to him. There's so little time, and Thorin's fingers are cold but no longer stiff. With more time, maybe Bilbo could convince himself that his king was only sleeping. He has enough time, though, to fold them reverentially around his gift and start the prayer to Yavanna before Nori tackles him off of his feet. Hard to breathe, Bilbo thinks, pinned beneath a dwarf. Hard to breathe. But shaking just as much as he is, but Bilbo no longer needs to fight. Things that had felt so wrong don't feel right. Thorin is still dead, but Bilbo feels better. Actually, not better, more complete maybe. Like he's actually said goodbye, like he might be able to walk out into the sun again and not feel like the world should have ended when Thorin's life did. As if maybe there is such a thing as a life after Thorin. He floats in that realization. Pressed into the ground by Nori's body weight for some time, more footsteps have returned. They speed towards this place where he's laying. They're coming to take me away. The thought floats through Bilbo's mind, and he's okay with that. Everything is over. Everything is done. Everything is done. As Bilbo passes out, he hears a few things. Why in Mahal's name are you crushing our burglar beneath you, brother? It's Ori, he sounds distressed. Bilbo was trying to climb into the tomb with Thorin, Nori says. When their burglar awakes, in one of the hot healing cots now set up inside the mountain because of a rather vicious snowstorm, something has been profoundly misunderstood. Nothing Bilbo can say will change anyone's mind, and the dwarves are even more stubborn than a barrel full of tugs. 2 months later, Philly is king under the mountain. Perplexingly, Bilbo is crowned Dowager Consort and convinced to stay. When he dies, they place his body in the same tomb as Thorin, on a blanket of soil sprinkled with forget-me-not seeds. They won't grow here, surrounded as they are in darkness and stone, but it's important to Bilbo, and so they do it. Soil and stone, flesh and bone. Author's note. I'm sorry. The end. Thank you for listening.